Hey guys, welcome back to another interview. We just keep them pumping, and today we have the winner of the Dreamhack Community Tournament for LOR this time, Shadawx. How are you doing, my guy?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Casman?
I am doing great, and I want to see some tournaments that are organized outside of what we're used to, outside of Fight Night, because Wisdom is doing a great job, and outside of the grassroots. So Dreamhack catching up on the LOR scene is a good sign, and I'm glad to interview you for the first time.
Yeah. Great to see.
So, first, because you are the first time around here, we usually ask people a bit about their background. So, I would like to ask you, what are you doing outside of LOR? What's your story behind playing LOR?
Um, yeah. So I guess I've started playing LOR since I guess the beta was out, and yeah, I've just really enjoyed it. So I came from a Hearthstone background, and also played Gwent before as well. And Hearthstone, I'd say I've played the longest competitively, and Gwent I played for a bit until they changed everything. From they had like an older version, and then they changed it to Homecoming, and it was a
Homecoming
lot different.
patch?
And I
Yeah.
stopped there, and then yeah, and then I found LOR, and then I was playing it since then. And then for I guess actual trading card games in real life, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh for a few years, and yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Uh, Other than that, I actually don't really do much outside. I'm currently looking for a job.
If you see this interview, guys, hire this guy. He's proficient in playing card games.
Yeah, exactly.
But did you win anything in the other games that you've mentioned competitively? Did you participate in tournaments or did you just play ladder most of the time?
Yeah, so Hearthstone, I didn't really play in the bigger tournaments, but locally we had a lot of lands, and we had a lot of community tournaments, and those ones I did pretty well in, and I've won a couple. But yeah, I wouldn't say I've done anything a lot bigger than that. So just mostly local stuff I've done well in.
All right. I mean, now it's the time for you to rise and shine because with LOR and with COVID hitting, everything is online, everything is remote, so you can win as much as you want as long as you participate.
Exactly, yeah. It's a lot more accessible for everybody.
But yeah, moving a little bit forward to DreamHack, what was the format actually? How did you get there? Because I know there were a few qualifiers. At first, it wasn't restricted to the NA shard, but then cross shard got killed, so it's only NA. So can you tell us a bit about your road to winning it?
Yeah. So for the DreamHack qualifier, there was four qualifiers, and each of the winners of the four qualifiers made it to the tournament that I just won. And those ran for about, I want to say, from May to June, and I won the first one. And the first one, the format for that one was the usual Riot Lock, like seasonals, except it was double elimination of 64 people. So that one took a while, and in the end, I won through the winners bracket, so I went undefeated in the end, and I played. I think back then I played triple Freljord lineup, which was Foundry, Ash, Nox, and I think it was TLC back then. And then from there afterwards, they changed the format for the rest of the qualifiers to Swiss into Top Cut, so it wasn't as long. And then from there, I think in the order, I think it was Octopuses who won, and then Jason Florent, and then Green Seers, and then they were the other three competitors I faced in the finals, I guess, the grand finals.
Awesome. And let's move forward to the decks because those brought you the win. And the first one is something that you came with. I think not necessarily you came with, but you are a preacher for this deck, this infinite combo bullshit. Why? Why bring this to the tournament?
It's a really good deck for a tournament. I'll say that. Um, the main reason I brought it was in part to, I want to say part of it was the format. So for this grand finals as well, it was a single elimination. So I only had to play 2 matches if I went all the way, which I did. So basically, chances are, if I brought this, I'd only have to do the combo twice and win, or it would just be banned. And neither time it was banned. So in my first match, I messed up the combo. Second game in the first match, I got it. And the last match, I got it right away and won from there. But that just shows how consistent the deck is to get the combo. And I think overall, if you're bringing this in ladder, it's tougher on ladder because there's so much variety on ladder right now with all the Sivir decks running around, all the aggro decks, and then the mix of control and mid-range decks. This deck does really well into control and mid-range. You're almost guaranteed to pull off the combo if they give you time. Whereas aggro or even Sivir is a bit tougher, but not impossible. You just have to hold off the aggression while you progress towards the combo.
I think there are many versions of the infinite combo. You chose the Ionia one, and can you tell me, is this a version that can actually win? Like, are you doing the combo until the opponent gets bored and gets timed out, or do you actually play for the win and the combo results into an actual win?
Okay, so for me personally, I don't like to do that hostage kind of stuff. But yes, you can play to win with it. There are ways to do it where you can bore the opponent till they give up, but there is a way to win. There's actually multiple ways to win with it. So there's the zillion time bombs. There's giving action infinite attack. There's clearing the board over and over. I think in this version I have the one lead and follow, so I could potentially blade dance 15 times if I have that in Zephyr Sage. So there's quite a few ways you do actually try the win and not just bore your opponent.
Alright, but I don't know. I mean, people tend to complain about this. You see it in the social media, but can you explain us how the deck actually works? How do you live until you can pull the combo, and what's the combo and how can you pull it, right?
Yeah, of course. So the ways you have to live in this version that I brought, I figured that out of the 3 other participants, I figured that at least 2 of them would bring safer kind of slow mid-range decks. So normally I would have Eye of the Dragon in here as a survival tool in case I'd run into aggro, but I took it out because I figured I wouldn't be facing aggro. So that would be one of the tools, is Eye of the Dragon, if it wasn't here. Otherwise, you have things like Clockwork Curator helps advance actions landmark. You've got things like Vagabond, which is also a good blocker. You've got also all those blockers that you put on the board, you can ghost block with them by blocking and then recalling them. So you kind of save your unit as well, and then just play it again to block again. I also have things like 2 or 3 homecoming and a Will of Ionias to better units if I need to. And in regards to the combo, so how the combo works is, so you have actions, you play action, you get his landmark, and once you level up action and get past the first landmark, you get his second landmark, Warlord's Horde, and that's the one that, when that one triggers after 8 advances, you get a card that gives you 3 options, and one of the options is Fount of Power, which lets you draw 2 cards and reduce the cost of all your cards by 1. So your goal is to get at least 2 of those. And the easiest way to do that is with Promising Future on it. So that way, when the countdown ends, you get 2 of them right away. So that's the easiest way to get it. And once you get 2, all your cards are reduced by 2, which is more than half your deck is free now. And the part that's infinite is having Navori Conspirator. If you have 2 of them in hand, you can constantly bounce them, and they count as if you have 2 of them and you have actions a level 2 landmark on there, it just keeps advancing it by 1 every time you do it. And since you've played 2 Founts of Power, they're all free. So you're doing this for free, no mana cost, while constantly advancing. And then once you trigger Action's Landmark again, you draw 2 cards again. And the next key card from there is finding a Solitary Monk, which will let you bounce the Conspirator back to hand so you can start all over. Or just finding one of the many recalls, retreats in your deck, or even Homecoming will cost 2, or Will of Ione will cost 2. If you still have 2 mana left, you can bounce it back that way as well. And that's basically the loop, is 2 Navori Conspirator, bouncing each other, having an action as well to continue the draw, and then finding a monk or other recalls to do it all over again. And then from there, to win, you can throw in a Zillion in the mix to add time bombs to your deck, or you can just use Action's champion spell over and over just to clear the board. Or you can also eventually you'll get to a point where you don't need to draw any more cards, and instead of grabbing Founts of Power, you can give your champions +2/+2 in Spell Shield over and over forever, and then you just swing.
Alright, you told us about how the deck works, but you mentioned some matchups that you are favorable in through mid-range and control. Could you elaborate what specifically you can target in this meta or pseudo-meta that we have?
Yeah, so I guess the most common deck you probably know is Sivir Action or Sivir Zed. It's not too bad into it, but I'd say that one's more of a toss-up. If they can get their Flurry of Fist combo, their Ruin Runner's Spell Shield in general is something that's hard for this deck to stop, and Overwhelm as well. Because for Spell Shield, you'd have to use, I guess, 2 spells to stop the unit if you need to stop it. If it's Ruin Runner, who has Spell Shield and Overwhelm, you can't Phantom block it either by blocking it and recalling. You'll still take the damage. So that one's a bit of a tricky matchup. Another one would be Aggro, because Aggro, if they can constantly develop and get the pressure on, they don't give you a chance to get your combo going. And especially if they're a more burn kind of variant of Aggro, I guess something like I guess we don't really have too many burn variants right now. Everything's kind of board based, like Discard or Lurk. Those ones, as long as you have blockers, you should be okay. But if they can get that damage in early and then finish you off with maybe a Get Excited or something, then you're going to have a bit of a harder time. But as for everything else, like Viego or Karma decks, those ones you should be almost an instant win into.
Alright. Moving forward, because we've been talking about this deck, and I think we covered the combo, we've been covering how it works, what it beats and what it does not, and because people are probably already tired of seeing it running around and are waiting for a fix, let's go over to something that's a little bit on the rise, because from the interviews that I've done this week, most of the persons had the GP-Sejuani in their lineup. So what was your reasoning behind bringing it yourself?
So following, I guess, the whole lineup structure, my lineup was built to target slower and mid-range decks. And Gangplank-Sejuani is really good at that because it's really good into Sivir, and it's actually pretty decent into almost everything, especially mid-range slower decks, because with this deck, what you do is you get your early damage in, and once you get enough damage in, by the time it gets to around, I want to say turn 6 on average, you should have a leveled Gangplank by then. And even if not, if you get that early damage in, you just drop a Dreadway and just warning shot their face or make it rain. Or since Dreadway gets your Gangplank, next turn you just play Gangplank and swing, and you should have usually done enough damage early on to win from there. And I think the problem with slower decks is they have a hard time dealing with wider, beefier boards. So that's what's really good about this. And especially against Sivir decks, Sejuani level 2 is really good.
Yeah, they cannot. They ghost you, no problem. You freeze, they double attack you. You cannot hit me down twice with 0 attack. No problem.
Exactly.
But the version is still seeing cards that are being taken in, cards that are being taken out, and one card that I'm not seeing around is Zap Strafing. Some people include it, some people do not. For example, I think Rattling Bones does not include Zap Strafing, and you do not have it yourself. What's the reasoning for not including it?
Yeah, so this is I got this list from Rattling Bones, and I believe the reason for Zap was it just wasn't needed because there seems to be enough draw and enough pressure that you can constantly go in early when you need to. Like you have Fortune Croaker for the draw. You've got an extent Black Market Merchant, Yordle Grifter, and you just kind of want to play on curve and play as aggressively as you can. So around turn 4, yeah, Zap is still a good card, and it's a fine addition, but just trying to find room in the deck for that is a bit tricky. The only thing I could see maybe being cut for Zap might be Fortune Croaker, but Fortune Croaker going from a 1-drop to Fortune Croaker the next turn is really good. You get 2 bodies on board, plus you draw a card. The only real downside to that is you put Fortune Croaker plus your 1-drop in range of, I guess, one damage removal spells, but I don't think there's too many of those right now.
Unless you're playing the mirror, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're playing the mirror or maybe Shadow Isles if they run Vol Feast. But that's about it, right? So Fortune Croaker gets some good value in there.
Yeah, you mentioned that the deck is all around good into anything, but what does this deck struggle against? What are you having problems dealing with?
So this deck, I think, it's good into a lot of things, but I think it has problems struggling with anything that can put big beefy units on board and keep them there, because this deck can't really remove big units. So I guess, for example, Deep probably, I'd say, is good, because if they can build up their board with Sea Scarabs, or if they get to like turn 4 or 5 and they have a Lure of the Depths and they get the Abyssal Eye, and then if they can just get it straight to Deep, Turbo Deep it out, then they can just sit there with their 6/6 Abyssal Eye, their 5/6 Sea Scarab, and this deck doesn't have removal for those. The closest we have is Monster Harpoon, and that's only 5 damage, right? So you can't really do much if they can start getting those out. You also have things like Sejuani and maybe Gangplank, but that only reduces the attack. It doesn't reduce their health, right? So they could still block if needed, and then next turn you have to deal with it again. So it struggles with anything that can put out big units like that, I'd say.
Did you get to play against Deep, or is this just what would theoretically be a bad matchup? That's the question, because maybe we do not have that many Deep players in this meta, is what I'm trying to say.
Theoretically, it should be bad, yeah. I haven't gotten to try it yet.
We need to ask random to play it again.
Yeah, we need random to tell us the secrets.
Alright, I mean, this deck is still seeing an evolution. Some people get cards in, cards out, but we covered most of it. And the last one is something I haven't seen in any of the top cut tournament winners so far. And it's getting back into the meta, or maybe because of Jarvan getting that buff. Shen-Jarvan, what's the story behind bringing this one?
Yeah, so I think for the past week or so, since Scattered Pod came out, Shen-Jarvan has been seeing a lot more play, simply because of a couple things. One, Scattered Pod is a pretty good addition to the deck. It can find you your rallies, guaranteed, because it's the only slow spell you play, and it can find you your buff by picking a burst spell, and it can find you your interaction by picking a fast spell. So that's one. The other one is Spirit's Refuge is really good right now because of all the Sivir decks running around. Spirit's Refuge is a great way to kind of stop that Ruin Runner in its tracks and kill it as well. And the only choice they have is to use a buff spell or something. And even if they do that, you still gain the life from the damage that happens. And the last thing is challengers. Challengers are still great. Like they can pull Ruin Runners, they can pull your key cards from the back line. Screeching Dragon, 4 attack, kills a Ruin Runner, or trades with Ruin Runner, which is fine. And that's something that I think that was something that's why Sivir decks and Ruin Runner decks were strong, was because at that meta, there wasn't really decks that played things that could challenge the Ruin Runner. So yeah, that's why it's seeing a comeback, I think.
Alright, and I need to ask you if this is the best deck for Scatterpod in, because you know exactly what you know. Because if you are playing, for example, Spooky Karma, at fast speed you know you are getting removal, but you do not know if you get the removal you need. Maybe you need a Vengeance, and you are getting a Withering. Well, good luck with that one. You know you can get your Go Hard, but that's about it. And maybe your mid burst speed. But what's fast speed? It's subject to debate. The deck chooses.
Yeah, the whale will choose for you.
But yeah, is this the deck that has the most consistency for Scatterbot, or is there something else that we do not know or we are missing?
Actually, no. I think yeah. This deck is one of the best ones for consistency, and Spooky Karma as well. Like you said, if you want to find your Go Hard, it's great there. But like you said, you've got a ton of other fast spells that you could pull. So like you said as well, you could get a Vengeance or you could get a Whale. You don't really get to pick and choose. Whereas in this one, you everything's sort of sorted by category, you know? Like burst spells, you know, are your buffs. Fast spells, you know, are your interaction to combat units. Except Deny. Deny's also good though. And your slow spell is I don't want to say win condition, but like it's a good way to push the extra pressure that you need. So that's what's nice about Pod in this deck, is that each option you have is already kind of sorted into a category for you. You just pick exactly what you need.
Alright.
Other decks that it could work in, I haven't really thought about it, but yeah, probably any Karma deck it should be okay in.
Karma Israel has seen some Scatterpods here and there, but Karma Israel, I can tell you from experience playing against it feels terrible.
Yep.
It's not the meta for Israel Karma. I know there are some Israel Karma lovers there, but not the time. But
one day it'll be a time.
We're talking a little bit about Golden Aegis. We didn't really mention it, and I feel like Golden Aegis is the Tri-Beam type of effect. Like, it gives you a huge tempo swing no matter what.
Yeah, I agree. Golden Aegis is a really good card. It gives barrier, it gives a rally. It's searchable now with Pod. It can do a lot. A lot of people usually run just a 2 of, now that you can run Scattered Pod. And like I said before, I was trying to target slower decks and mid-range decks. So that's why I have 3 of instead of the usual 2. Just so I could, I guess, find it more and keep the pressure on more against those decks.
And you're running one of Young Witch. What's she doing there?
So the Young Witch, I actually saw a couple people running it. Mm-hmm. I've seen it on a ladder a bunch. I saw Finny, I think it was. Yeah, Finny won the RCO tournament, and he had one of Young Witch. And it seemed really good, especially with the rally. You can give 2 things quick attack and +1 attack. If you curve out, you can go, and you're attacking on evens, you can go Fleet Feather into Young Witch, pull something that has 3 health with quick attack. You can do a lot of nice little, I guess, tricks with it, especially with your challengers.
Yeah, you mentioned the Ruin Runner into using your Screeching Dragon into Ruin Runner. If you have that one of Young Witch, you do not need to buff it, or you do not think, alright, I'm using my Screeching Dragon. No, I'm keeping a big beefy body and my opponent is on the defense. They need to have the buff.
Exactly. You force them to have it. And not even Shapestone. Shapestone won't help. They need to have Twin Discipline or something.
And even then, you have your own Twin Disciplines, for example. You can even have your own Sharp Sight, because you already get the 1-off attack from the Young Witch, so Sharp Sight is enough. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's really good.
But yeah, we have been talking about your lineup strategy when we were talking about the second deck. So what were you actually trying to aim for with these triple decks?
Yeah. So with this set of decks, I was aiming to kind of prey on mid range and slow decks. I really wasn't expecting aggro, but if there was one, I would have had a hard time. And I think Octopus's brought a triple aggro lineup, but he got knocked out on the other side of the bracket. Thankfully, I didn't have to face him. Um, but yeah, so that's what I was trying to target. I was trying to target mid range and slower decks with this.
And what did you see in the actual tournament? What did you get faced against?
Yeah, so I faced against mid range and slower decks. So I believe round one I faced Jason Florent, and he brought Ezreal Karma, Shen-Jarvan, and I can't remember the third. Oh, the third deck I banned. I think it was Azir Aurelia. So that one, yeah, was an automatic ban from me. So I faced the other two, and I did pretty okay there. And then my final match was against Green's team, Sejuani, and he also banned it as well. So from there, I just faced. So that one, I just 2-0'd the Shen-Jarvan.
All right, seems interesting. But who did you practice with anyone for this tournament? Did you have some practice partners? Because now is the time to give them a shout out. Show them that you care about them.
Yeah, so of course the Wobbly Wombats. I practice with them when I have the time to, and I talked about deck lineups there. Also, Rattling Bones and Princess Powerful. I talked with a lot to figure out a lineup, and I think I don't. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone, but I think that's about it for now.
All right, awesome. Everyone has screen partners. Everyone gets to perform because of screen partners. Outside of few select people that just spammed ladder and got away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are nearing the end of the interview, and it's been a pleasure having you around. And we have that one traditional question before we are actually closing the interview. So, if you had just one thing to tell to the audience before we're ending this, which one would that be?
I hope you keep not banning Infinite Combo in these tournaments. If it makes it to seasonals and it's still there, I think we're gonna have a problem with the timer.
Yeah, definitely. So let's see what Riot is going to do about it. But that's it for this interview, guys. Thank you for watching and stay tuned because this is one of the many that will continue to keep coming. So see you next time.